uh, there,
Yes.
oh, I
Sorry.
noticed that there was some sort of an award given out earlier this month to UW Green Bay for its commitment to first generation students. I think it was trying to think of it. It was
First Gen Power.
First gen.
yeah, that might have been it. So I'm not sure if that's worth a mention, but it is getting some attention outside of Wisconsin. So that might be important to note. That's all
Oh,
I have. That's all I have for now. But it looks like you've got the obviously the right questions to ask, and if you can get current and former students to weigh in, that'd be great.
yeah. So, all right. So are you taking note? And yeah, this was like recorded. And all right. And next, editors. Any suggestions?
I like Michael's idea of trying to compare across UW campuses, just because I know, we've gotten recognition for being a first gen campus, so that's kind of like a pretty big thing that you will probably want to touch on in your story. Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah. If you remember correctly, I think I sent some statistical information. You can find it on the web, and I sent a link to you at your previous email 2 weeks ago. Right? Did you get it? Connor, Ashley, so my email, relevant email about our demographics. No? I didn't send our other UWGB system, but I only sent the demographic information for our GB only. We all reviewed together, and I sent it 2 weeks ago at our meeting.
Yes, I think
It's just the back look.
Back look, yeah.
Yeah, I got that. I'm trying to find it right now. But
Okay.
I remember getting that.
Yeah, please, yeah, okay. Please cite that source, and please, your groups, please visit the rest of GB website and find this kind of demographic information they had, okay? And you may go basically UW Madison, UW Milwaukee, and UW Oshikosh also. Visit all UW system first. And if you find relevant statistics, and you can also compare it with our GB system. Make sense, Michael?
Yes.
All right. All right. So my another question, it seems that Vicky is not here. Do you know whom Vicky interviewed? Do you know? Have any information?
she might have told us, but I forgot. She's
Okay. And so may interview your teammate, right? Roommate?
Yeah, this is.
Good. And yeah. And Connor, to whom do you want to reach out?
I was planning to reach out to officials from First Gen Phoenix.
Okay.
I'll also be reaching out to Jeffrey.
Okay, and Grace.
Yes,
Grace, you should.
I was gonna reach out to Greg.
Okay,
Yeah.
do that.
I figured that was the one.
Do that. All right. Okay, thank you. And sports beats and politics beats. Any thoughts? Any suggestions? All good? Cooper. Lauren.
This is very small, it might not even be an issue, but I did just kind of like pick up the question. Do you think first gen students need more hand holding? That kind of makes them seem just a little bit like incompetent.
That's what I was thinking, but when I saw that it was Vicky and then they already did the interview.
Oh, yeah.
I that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Like, it's already done. It's not a great question in my mind because it's a little.
I would have said guidance, maybe, or more support.
Yeah, I would say yes. Support is like good.
Support. Different language. Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Everyone, Please listen, everyone. This is the reason that you may share your interview questions in advance. And I'm gonna put at the word for the doc and we may edit all together, right? Next, for the next story, please do that, okay? Okay? Okay. Oh. Please, okay, thank you. All right. Oh, yeah, I completely 100% agree with Lauren, yeah. And others, any thoughts? Any thoughts? Again, after the spring break, you may write 2 additional this kind of story, okay? 2 additional story. Yeah, before spring break, 1, this might be a first time. You may write a story with your group members, and you might be familiar with writing this long-term story. And just please don't feel pressured. And after spring break, you may write 2 more stories. Got it? Agree? And there will be some restructure in group members. Okay? Divide. All right. So far, this is the thing. I think we covered most of things so far. And do you have any questions in this room or Zoom meeting? No? Okay. What we will do right now is Michael Julie will give about 45 to 50 minutes copy workshop about what is copy editor, 10 tips for copy editor. If you are interested, please stay here. If not, please please work with your group members outside of this room. Okay? All right. So I printed out some handout for Michael's workshop. Who are interested in being a copy editor? Only 2? Others? No? No? Okay. All right. I uploaded this handout on the Canvas. You can refer it, but just in case I printed out. Okay? So if you don't, so what I suggest is that please work with group members around this area, okay? And discuss your plan and write down some outline, okay? Make sense? Others all good? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining this official discussion meeting. And we want to meet next week and a week before spring break. You may write your story. First draft next week, final draft a spring break week, okay? A week from spring break. Okay, please work with your group members. I just printed up for you. All right, thank you. And there's Michael. Here we go. One. Okay, hold on, Michael. Okay.
Yeah, how is it, Josh? You're doing? How are you doing?
You know, I'm going to bed and then Sarah O'Brien. Now I'm doing.
Connor, gift for you.
Oh.
But I actually
was
was
going to ask for one of those, so.
yeah, gift for you.
Thank you.
Uh-oh. All right, Michael, it seems that we are ready.
Too powerful for this university.
Yeah, hold on.
Under 3 hours.
All right.
See you next time. See you.
See you. Yeah, please work with your group members.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yep, because of you.
All right, thank you. And Michael, it seems that we are ready.
Okay. All right, so I assume it's Lauren and Josh
Yep.
And me, Joseph.
and you. Okay, great. I'm glad both of you volunteered. Just as an aside, when I was your age in college, I was in the School of Journalism at UW-Madison, and I saw a lot of the students trying to be taking the reporting positions in the reporting classes. And I wasn't too confident of my talents. And so I said, well, I'm not sure I can compete with all of these students getting to be reporters, but someone's going to have to edit all that stuff. So I think I'm going to go on a copy editing track. And sure enough, the first job I got out of college was as a copy editor. So you will be the two smart ones in this class.
Yes, agreed.
All right. Well, I know you've had a long week, and I know it's Friday afternoon, so I'll try to keep this as short as possible. At any time, if you have any questions, just interrupt me. I'd be happy to answer them. So I put together a little outline here, and we'll just follow that real quickly. I do want to talk just briefly about the difference between a line editor and a copy editor. So a line editor works directly with the reporter. So let's say on the sports story that the class is working on, the reporters would go to the sports editor, who would be the line editor. They discuss the story, they go out and report it. They come back, talk to the sports editor, who is the line editor, figure out a length. Is the story the right focus? Looking more at the big picture of the story. And then when they file the story with the sports editor would be the line editor, and they would more or less take just looking at the big picture. Is it the right focus? Is it a story at all? Should we do more reporting? No, I'm pretty happy with it. We're going to send it to the copy desk. The copy editors are really the first, nonpartisan, objective reader of that story. And you would be like a normal reader of the publication, picking up the story for the first time. And so you come into it with an objective look, and looking at that being a critical look at what that story actually is. But the most important thing when you go through this copy editing process is to make sure that the lines of communication between that line editor and the reporter or reporters who work on the story and you are always open, because there are always questions that come up. You don't really want it to be an antagonistic type setup where you're picking apart a story and in a way that demeans the reporter. You're actually a team, and you want the reporter story to be the best possible story. I put down 10 tips for copy editors. There could probably be 30, but it's a Friday afternoon, and we're not going to take a lot of time. So the first one is to get a style book. I noticed that the best style book for most publications is called the Associated Press Style Book. The AP style book.
Yeah,
the
Michael,
AP,
sorry. Yeah.
Yep.
I donated 2 AP style book in our newsroom. I donated.
You are awesome.
Yeah. Please use it for free, okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
You get if you need to buy any more, the UW Green Bay bookstore gets a discount.
Yeah.
But it is the number one style book that you can use. There's no need to read it from start to finish, but it's a good reference book. And when you come up to a question, you can take a look at it. But not only should you have the AP style book handy, but you should create a Google document, a Google Doc that would be available to all students going forward, not only for this semester, but for the semesters that are going to be following you, so that you can start building your own style book. And this would be for things like the spellings and styles of how do you reference, or what's the title of a building on campus? Do you call it the LS building? Is it the laboratory sciences building? Is it something else? You agree on a style, and then you put that style in your Google Doc in an alphabetical order, and you move on. And when these things come up, like the spelling of Wicks, the basketball coach, or Michael Alexander, the chancellor. If you can get the spelling and exact title of these people in your style book, in your UW Green Bay Fourth Estate style book, you get it down and you get it down correctly, and then the next person won't really have to work to find it. It'll just be there. So
Mhm.
that goes for professors and assistant professors, teaching assistants and students and all the departments. If you can start getting those into a Google Doc as your own style book going forward, that would be a big help. When you start the story, one of your first objectives would be to seek clarity. So you want to eliminate jargon and officialese and make it so that an average reader can understand it. So you'd want to spell out an acronym on first reference. So it'd be University of Wisconsin Green Bay, and then in the second reference, you could say UWGB or UW Green Bay. You should be able to explain technical issues in ways the average reader will understand. You also would like to make sure that the story uses active verbs. So for instance, a story might say an exam was given to the students by the professor. The better way to say that would be the professor gave an exam to the students. Someone could say a great solo was given by the bass player. Better to say the band's bassist Mike Julie played a great solo. That way it would keep the verbs active, and it would keep the reader engaged. So make sure that the verbs are all active. Once the story arrives and you read through it, I think you'll be able to see parts of the story that can be trimmed. So a sentence might be able to be shorter, or a paragraph. Can the entire story be shorter? You have to realize that the reader doesn't have a lot of time on his or her hands to read every story. So you want to make sure that the reader is spending the best time possible with that story. Find places throughout the story where it can be tightened up, and obviously work with the reporter to make that happen. Of course, being a copy editor, it is all about grammar, spelling, and punctuation. Seems to be a tedious part of the job, but it actually makes the story much, much better if you have the best grammar, spelling, and punctuation possible. By the way, don't rely on a spell check. It is good to do a spell check, so it might be able to catch things that you might miss. But don't rely on the spell check to catch every single error. You have to look at commas, for instance, the Oxford comma. There's a big debate about that. An Oxford comma is putting a comma in between so you have three things in a row. Mike Julie's bass playing is effortless, superb, and unique. An Oxford comma would be put just before the word and. And some papers traditionally, some publications traditionally have not put in that Oxford comma. That's just one little thing that's a style thing that you can work out among yourselves. But it's one of the things that you'll need to talk about. It does get as minute as that. Of course, check for capitalizations, abbreviations, and hyphenations. Then it's time for a fact check. Don't assume that just because the sports story says that the UW Green Bay basketball team could set a record for the best turnaround in NCAA history, you'll want to have the reporter show you the verification of that and look it up yourself if you can online. If you can't find it online, then you can ask the reporter to help you with that. I would make sure to double check every possible fact. I do say that your reputation and the reputation of the Fourth Estate is on the line with every story. And if your facts are right, people might not agree with your story, but if the facts are correct, they're not going to be able to argue with it. You also want to check for sources and balance. So the more sources in the story, the better. If a story has only one source, it's not going to be a very good story. So some of the questions you may want to ask are, does the story have enough sources? Are they the right sources for the story? And who else do you think we need to do an interview with? Also, are both sides, if there's an issue story, are both sides represented? And do you have a diverse number of sources in the story? Do you have liberals and conservatives, rich and poor, young and old, black and white, professors and students? I think that the more diversity you have in a story, the more readers are going to be invited to read that story. Number 8, is there a nut graph? I'm not sure that your journalism classes have discussed that. Maybe they haven't, might call it something else. But a nut graph is basically, why am I reading this story? Why should I be paying attention to this story? Make sure, obviously, the who, what, when, where, and why are addressed throughout, somewhere in the story. But the main thing is, can you answer the question, so what? So what if what's the importance of the big turnaround on the basketball program? Well, it might mean that they'll get better players next year. It might mean that they'll set an NCAA record. All of that should be in the story, and that's just another thing you should check. Number 9, does the math add up? You need a calculator. Of course, your phone should be a calculator too, but you need a calculator sometimes, and don't be afraid to pull it out. Make sure the additions and subtractions and percentages and rates and ratios are all correct. And if you don't know how to do that, there are easy ways to find out. And I can also, if you come across something in your editing of these stories or any stories during this semester where math is involved and you don't quite know how to figure it out, give me a call or shoot me an email and I'll help you with it. I wasn't really the best in math. In fact, my freshman year, I flunked calculus. That's how bad I was. But I learned in working with newsrooms that there are shortcuts that you can use for basic math that can figure out percentages and ratios. So don't be afraid of it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And number 10, I would reread the first couple of graphs of the story. Does the rest of the story support what is said in the first couple of graphs? And if it does, I think you're going to have a good story. But if it falls a little short, you may be sending that story back to the reporters for a little more reporting. A couple of other tips is that if you're having problems with the story, it's not really making sense to you, sort of read it out loud. The story should really be a conversation. It should be able to be read out loud. And when you read it out loud, sometimes it comes to you that it's not really reading right. Also, if you're having a problem editing the story, I find that printing it out and editing a hard copy is much easier and much quicker than trying to do it online. It's easier to move graphs around, to double check spellings throughout a story, and to see whether or not the story is in the right order and that it flows. And the best thing I think I could say that you should do over the next several weeks is just get used to reading a news publication every day. If you know what I do, of course, I'm retired and I have some time on my hands. But as a student, I know you're pressed for time. But I think every morning, as someone who's doing a news class, you should check what's happening in the world of news. Is there anything happening in the world you should be aware of? Is there anything happening in Green Bay that you should be aware of? And is there anything happening on campus that you should be aware of? And I think that you could within 15 to 20 minutes, a quick search of, let's say you have free access to the New York Times or the Washington Post, a check of the national headlines, a check of the Green Bay Press Gazette's headlines, and a check of maybe the Daily Cardinal's headlines will give you a good start on the day and might actually lead to some story ideas that you might have for the rest of your class. The other thing that it does when you keep reading these publications every day is when you start reading the stories, you start getting used to the structure of the news stories. You'll get to see how the best professionals in the world or in the nation get to write their stories. What's their structure? What's the structure of a sports story? It used to be, you won't believe this, but back in the 1970s, at the Milwaukee Journal, if you were writing a sports story and you were covering a game, the last part of your first paragraph of the story had to have the score of the game in it. That was just a requirement. And no matter what you wrote in the lead in the first paragraph, it had to end with a comma and the score. Thankfully, sports writing advanced way beyond that. And so now no one really knows where the score is going to be. Could be in the first graph or the second or the third. It could be in the seventh or eighth. It just depends on the writing. But getting to know or getting to read a sports story and a news story, maybe an education story related to the UW system, by reading those stories every day, after a while, you get used to what they look like. And that also makes you a better copy editor in the process. I also left here some resources for you. No, Joseph has given you plenty. In addition to what Joseph has given you, there's a free online dictionary. The Merriam-Webster one is the best one out there. You can have that. That's a free service. It's also a thesaurus, so if you're trying to figure out a better word that would fit somewhere, that's the webpage that you should go to. I mentioned the AP style book. The link there is just to show you what it costs and how you get it. But if Joseph's already given you two, that's a great start. You should keep one on the copy desk, wherever that might be, and one in the newsroom so anyone can take a look at it. And then there are two books that I think that every newsroom should have. One, I know you already have. It's called Words on Words. It's written by John Bremner. It's nothing that you would sit down and read in a couple of days because there's no plot to it. There are no characters. But it's more of a style book, or it's really a style book for professionals that gives you a better look at, let's say I randomly look at something, what the word diatribe means and whether it's useful in what you're trying to do. And the word different usually is followed by the word different from, and not, that's an error that a lot of people still do to this day. But if you get used to the Bremner's Words on Words, it's a really good reference book for learning the really good use of the English language. The other one is The Elements of Style by William Strunk. It's a very old book, but it's only about 71 pages. But it has all the elements of the English language. That is a good refresher course. If arguments persist and you have to go to a reference book to prove that you are right and not the reporter, The Elements of Style is a good place to go. So there, in a nutshell, is how to do copy editing. I'm open to all sorts of comments or criticisms or questions, so go ahead and fire away.
So the first question I have, I guess, so when you're talking about line editors and they work directly with the reporter and they're kind of I'm not necessarily biased, but they're not exactly removed from the story.
Right.
Would you consider Josh and I to be more copy editors or more line?
I think it would be great if, well, in this instance, you would probably be both.
Okay.
If one of you said, I like copy editing, and the other one said, I like line editing, you could divide up the work that way. That would be fine. But I think that in this class being so small, and actually not in a newsroom yet, you are probably going to be line editors and copy editors. And right now, I think over the past few weeks, you've been line editors. You've been sort of listening to what the pitches are on these 3 stories that are being worked on. You're pretty familiar with what the angles are going to be. And when those stories are filed, you're probably going to, I'd like for you to work if Joseph agrees. I think Joseph
I'm
would
fine,
like you
I'm
to work.
fine.
Yeah,
I'm
I
fine.
think whatever Joseph says is fine. But if you can work with the reporters on their story right after it's filed, that's the line editor's position. And in that instance, you're looking more at the bigger picture. Did you get all the sources that you needed? Is it balanced? Does it flow naturally? Is it long enough? Is it short enough? Just a bigger picture look at the story. Once you're past that and the story is ready to go, that's when you turn into a copy editor and you go line by line and sentence by sentence and make sure everything is right. So yes, you are probably going to be doing both jobs at some point on these 3 stories. What happens on the other 2 stories after spring break probably depends on how well this procedure goes. But it's good training to be both a line editor and a copy editor.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, with the style guide. Now that is something, I know you said we would come to like just an agreement on when we're making our own style guide. Is that something that for this class, like Josh and I would do like solely ourselves, or Joseph, do you guys wanna be involved with the creation of that?
In terms of style guide, I'm gonna, after reading first the draft, I'm gonna do very rough some guide, rough suggestion, I'm gonna do some official notification, how can I say? Like this one, I know that this is the pretty much, this is the pretty most mistake that I could find a lot, so, yeah. Yeah, we could, I'm gonna let them know, and yeah, we may work together. Yeah, it's first, we may, yeah, I'm gonna let them know after reading first draft, and you guys all read the first draft, and next we may or make some cumulative Word document, probably.
Okay,
Make sense?
yeah, I think that would be a project that's like the sooner the better, so that they can have it in their pocket when they're
Yes.
drafting. Plus before we start doing actual like editing stuff.
All right.
Start doing
Yeah, I think that when you start editing these things will automatically come up.
that.
The spelling of Sundance Wicks, that's easy. You just copy it, paste it into the W part of the W section of your new Google Doc and say Sundance Wicks, comma, coach of the Phoenix men's basketball team, started in, when did he start? The 2023 school year, and just put a little note in there on it, and then you can move on. And as you edit these stories, you can fill in a couple more things as you go on. The laboratory sciences building, what are we going to call that? What's the official title? Those are all things that you will get to when you start editing the stories. And maybe Joseph and I can add in a bunch of these things as we go along. We could look at a I could look at a map of the UW Green Bay campus and enter the names of the buildings in wherever they are alphabetically. You know, what's the name of the University of Wisconsin Green Bay Police Department? I don't know. I don't know what the official title is, but we might be able to find that out. So there are things that I could do just off and on. I could spend an hour every day for a week and probably put in most of what you would need. And then you could take a look at it. And, you know, I had the, I have it out here. I can't show it to you now, but in addition to the AP style book, the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel had its own style book. And it was, and I'll bring a copy, Joseph, when I come, if I can remember, I'll bring it along with me, and you can actually have it and keep it there. But it was a Journal Sentinel style book that over the years they accumulated a bunch of information on that was particular, you know, aimed at Wisconsin things, Milwaukee things, so that you would have the style on it. So Milwaukee, there's a St. Josaphat Cathedral, and for years we called it St. Josaphat Cathedral. Recently, the style book was changed to say it's the Cathedral of St. Josaphat, and that's the way so they changed it. But that's the way they wanted to be titled. So in the back cover of one of my style books that I had at the Milwaukee Journal, I had a little phrase that says, "A foolish consistency is a hobgoblin of little minds." And that was written by Ralph Waldo Emerson, great American literature guy. So yeah, you want to be consistent, and you want to show your readers that you're taking the time to make things right. And that all goes into becoming legitimate as a legitimate news source. But you can also go too far on a foolish consistency and want to make exceptions to the rule once in a while.
Let's see. I don't know, Josh, do you have any questions?
I don't have any burning questions because you asked like the one question that was like.
Something
Well,
that-
you know, I think that, you know, these are just 10 basic rules. I mean, the main thing is to just try your best to make sure that everything is accurate and fair and balanced, and work with the reporters when you want to make a change. Run it by the reporter, or if the reporter is not available, run it by the line editor, and explain to them why you want to make the change, and come to an agreement. No one is actually, you know, I think that's the best thing. And when I was chief of the copy desk at the Milwaukee Journal, we had, you know, if we were going to make a major change in the story, we would definitely go back to the reporter, explain what we were trying to do, and work out a solution. Sometimes it was a compromise, but the result was a much better story and a much better read story. So just make sure the lines of communication are open, and do your best to make sure it's accurate, fair, and balanced, and spelled right. And I know that I also know that one of the professors in the comm department, Joseph, you can tell me who it is,
Okay.
does teach a course on one of the parts of the course is on copy editing. So I don't want, you know, if that professor has a much better top 10 list than I do, by all means, use the professors instead of mine.
Who's that?
Okay. Probably including me and Josh and Lauren may incorporate every knowledge that we learned. Yeah.
So this is kind of segueing a little bit away from editing, but still
Sure.
related. With the staff positions that we are hoping to possibly fill, when you have like the section editors, those are kind of more, as you said, like the line editor, like you're working with the reporter, you know.
Yes.
Exchange, sorry, okay. And then if we say we only have enough people enrolled next semester to have like one writer per section, then the managing editor and like editor-in-chief would kind of do what me and Josh are doing, like the same, do both line and copy editing.
Yeah, I think, what I submitted was just my thoughts on it. It wasn't, if you had 22 to 24 students on the, writing and editing on the fourth estate, that would be the perfect world. If you have 12, then I think that every semester, the editors are going to have to just make adjustments to what they cover. Some semesters you might have 4 sports writers. Some semesters you might have only 1. Or some semesters you might have 4 arts and entertainment reporters. Other semesters you might not have any. It just depends on using the talents that the students have in each semester to their best abilities. And so I think it'll be up to the editor and the managing editor to figure out, okay, here's the staff that we have. Here are where their talents lie. Here's what they're interested in doing. How can we figure this out and publish, publish something online and eventually in print? So yeah, it's just going to be it's going to be a work in progress. And next fall, nobody knows really what's going to happen. There'll be many students taking Joseph's Com 425 class who are in the com department. And I'm hoping there will be just as many students signing up from outside the com department.
Oh, yes.
It just depends on how well we're able to sell the fourth estate this semester. And I know I sent out couple of memos already this month, just trying to push people, and I've probably been pushing a little too hard.
No. Yeah, thank you.
But it's imperative that we try to get the word out in February about the fourth estate for next fall. And I can't, there's only so much I can do from being 126 miles away and not on campus every day.
Oh, no.
So I know that you, Joseph and Katie Turkowitz are doing their best to spread the word throughout the entire campus. And then I know that you, Lauren and Josh, are spreading the word, to the students on campus.
Yes, they visited. Yeah, for Josh, Josh recruited Connor. Yeah, and also all three of us visited classes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's just a question of, I know that, I'm pretty comfortable knowing that many students in the com department will be writing for the fourth estate next fall. What I'm trying to get or I would hope that we could get, photographers and photographers from the arts department and copy editors from, copy editors from the English department and reviewers from the theater department, and ad sales reps from the business department, and just to get more people involved in the fourth estate in all sorts of things, so that we can start building it from where it is now. Now, remember, it started out with just 6 reporters and no editors just a year ago. And last semester was up to 22, which was great. And this semester it's 11, which is still great. But that's the fluctuations that we're going to have as we move forward. Fall semesters might be loaded with talent. And the spring semesters, maybe not so much. You just don't know. But I think it's going to be up to both of you to try to lay the groundwork. And I know that you're both, I'm assuming you're both seniors, right?
Yeah.
So whatever groundwork you lay, it'd be nice if you could find an editor and managing editor from among the underclassmen that you have in this class, if there are any, and see if they're interested in applying to be editor or managing editor for next fall. And I know Joseph is already looking around for that. So, you know, and you're on, this is groundbreaking stuff, and I don't expect it to be 100% hitting on all cylinders for this semester. It's just gradual, step-by-step
Yes.
progress. And we
Yeah,
are making, you know, we are making progress. I think that
yeah,
the 6 writers who were on the staff a year ago when I first started this were pretty decent. They were
Yeah.
okay. They each had their own skills. The 22 who were on the staff in the fall were much better. And I think that the 11 that are in the class this spring are better than the fall writers. So, you know, I can see it, not so much in their writing, because I haven't really seen the writing this semester, but in the organization, the questions that they're asking, the form, you know, the form of the story that they're working on, the outlines. They're ahead of where Joseph's class was last semester. So there is improvement, and that's what, you know, that's the way it's going to be. And it's going to take a few years for this to get back up to where it was. I did some research when I was doing research for the Daily Cardinal on how many awards they've had
Mm.
from the Milwaukee Press Club. The Fourth Estate won a Milwaukee Press Club award in 2017.
Wow.
That was the last year it was published. And it had won awards prior to that, going back into the late 1990s and early 2000s. So it was an award-winning publication. And if you're ever interested, if you had an hour of free time, go to the top floor of the library on campus and go into the archives and ask one of the students at the front desk to give you the Fourth Estate issues from 2015 or 2016. May of 2016 was the last print publication of the Fourth Estate. And then 2017 was the last online version of it. They didn't have a print in 2017. But go back and take a look at a couple of the issues. They were 8 pages. They were full color. They had sports and entertainment and opinions and news, and they were on top of it. It was a really good publication. And that's what I hope to eventually restart. And you being the first 2 editors of the revitalized Fourth Estate, you should be proud that you're part of this, and that you're advocating for this along the way.
Yes, yes, thank you. And I have something to say. Yeah. First of all, yeah. Yeah, as I talked to you, yeah, it's still there in this classroom, still there are 11. So I'm scanning some students, and I also asked fact check about Rainy and Connor, yeah, especially Rainy. I only heard good thing about Rainy, so I'm looking for Rainy and Connor.
That's what I was thinking too. I haven't actually read anything of Rainey's. I don't know like how her writing is. I assume it's good.
Yeah,
It's really just an assumption at this moment, but then once we read the first story.
yeah, let's read first the story. Yeah,
Yeah.
it depends, but I heard that she is a hard worker. She is a hard worker, and she is smart. That's what I heard, but not sure about writing. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like does she have a journalism emphasis?
I don't know. I'm gonna ask her. Yeah.
I think she does. I
Yeah.
don't know for certain, but
My honest opinion is for Rainy and Connor. My observation. Yeah.
yeah, because Connor said he's gonna come back.
Yeah.
And he's a junior or sophomore?
Junior.
He's a junior.
Junior, okay.
Okay.
Rainey's also a junior?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I
Well, that's
got-
awesome that
if I'm wrong.
you have two people already. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm looking for, yeah.
And it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter whether they're in journalism school or not.
Yeah,
It's great if it helps,
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
certainly.
Oh, yeah.
but at the Daily Cardinal, the editor-in-chief there, it was a photographer.
Oh,
Was
wow,
it?
Wow,
okay.
So, and he's in charge of the biggest student newspaper in the state. So,
Yeah,
by the way, their offer still stands that if you wanted to talk to either or both of them on a Friday, they're willing to talk to you. So later, it would be, if you didn't have to do it in February or March, you could do it in April.
Mhm.
That would be fine as well. Just let me know. I think I gave both of you their email addresses. And I've talked to
yeah.
both, and I've talked to both of them this past week. So they are both, they actually, the Daily Cardinal staff is really interested in this effort to restart the fourth estate. And
Oh, good.
there are two other Zoom sessions coming up, Zoom training sessions coming up.
Mhm.
I believe Joseph might have the info on it. If you don't, Joseph, I'll resend it.
Oh,
And